Have you ever met someone and felt this instant magnetic pull towards them, but you couldn't explain why? It's like this overwhelming attraction and you just feel like you've known them forever. Well, this is exactly what happened to me recently. It was the night before my holiday. I was in the airport bar, and to be honest, I wasn't even going to go, but I ended up meeting someone who just felt magnetic. Hours of conversation, instant connection, eerie coincidences, and it was like meeting the male version of me. Now, the thing is, this one meeting completely knocked me sideways, and I haven't felt the same since. So it got me wondering, why do certain people feel so powerful? Is it fate? Is it energy? Is it a lesson that we need to learn? In this video, I'm going to explore that magnetic connection that we have with some people and what it really means. And it's not what you think. So I've recently got back off holiday and I went on a safari to Kenya. Now, the trip was partly to go on safari, which I've wanted to do for years, but partly to have some personal space and to reflect and to process some family stuff that had come up for me recently. So I went a day early because there was due to be strikes on the London Underground, and I thought I can't risk missing my early flight. So I thought I'll just stay, one night in a hotel, and I left in plenty of time. Now the thing is, there ended up being no delays. And I got there really early. So I got to the hotel, I was sitting in my room and I was kind of twiddling my thumbs a bit for, what to do. So I rang my mum just to kill some time and she said, why don't you go for a drink? Because I was telling her I was a little bit anxious about meeting this group of people that I'd never met before. I was excited about the trip and I felt like I needed to just burn off some energy. I couldn't sort of sit in my room all night. I'd probably start pacing the room. So she said, why don't you go for one drink? Now, the thing is, I don't really drink anymore. So I was umming and ahhing for ages. And I thought, do you know what? I'm on holiday. I'll just go for one and then I can come back to the room and watch a film or something. So I get to the bar and it's packed. There's nowhere to sit. And I'm thinking, oh, great. Now what? So I go to the bar, I order a drink and I'm looking around and I spot this one guy who's sitting on a 6-seater table, but he's got his headphones on, he's on his laptop. So I thought, I can just perch on the end. So I kind of walked over and I signaled to him, do you mind if I just sit here? And he was like, yeah, sure, So I sit down. I didn't think anything more of it. I'm checking through my phone, checking emails, texting people I haven't spoken to in a while, just catching up on things, basically just trying to kill time. Now, I guess an hour must have passed and this guy says to me, oh, do you mind just watching my stuff for a bit while I go to the toilet? And I said, yeah, sure, that's fine. So he comes and sits back down and makes a phone call. Now, obviously I'm not trying to earwig or anything, but I'm sitting so close to him, I hear the whole thing. And I hear him say dad, so he's obviously rung his dad. He sounds a bit stressed because something's gone wrong with his trip. There was a cancellation and he's had to reorganise everything. And straight away I thought, oh, that's a shame. I wonder where he's off to. So anyway, he gets off the phone and at this point I've done everything that I need to do on my phone. So I'm sort of staring into space a little bit and so's he. And I guess about 20 minutes passed and during that time I kind of felt him look in my direction a couple of times, but I didn't want to say anything and it sort of felt a little bit awkward. So after a little while I thought, oh, sod it. And I turned to him and I said, so where are you off to? Well, from that point on, it was non-stop conversation. 4 hours of talking about our trips, why we were going away, from philosophy to literature to consciousness to the nature of reality. Like, we had so much in common and I felt this rush of energy while I was talking to him and I could feel that he felt it as well. It was just like this instant connection and there were so many eerie coincidences, like the reason we were going away on our trip. He felt that it was the first step to him doing something that he wanted for himself, and that was the same reason I was going away. And he said that, you know, he felt stuck and he was in a loveless relationship, which are his words. And I instantly felt like I wanted to, you know, step in and support him. And he was saying it was, you know, a difficult dynamic at home and he wanted to be there for his daughter, yet he was really unhappy. Anyway, the conversation just flowed. And like I said, there were so many coincidences. Like his ex-partner who we were still living with was called Kathy. And our birthdays were 10 days apart. And there was just all these little things that came up. And I was thinking, this is a sign, it has to be. We have so much in common. You know, he was funny, he was intelligent, and obviously there was that instant attraction. But at the same time, I thought, well, he still lives with someone. Nothing can ever happen. So it got to about 11 o'clock. And I thought, well, the whole reason I've come to stay at the hotel is to make sure I'm on time for my flight in the morning. So if I stay any longer, I'm not going to have enough sleep to get up early enough. So I made my excuses and I left. And I'd actually got his number during the conversation because he was like quoting literature at me. He sent me something. So we'd swapped numbers. And before I got back to my room, he'd text me. And to be honest, we carried on texting for a couple of more hours and I just felt, I guess, a bit infatuated by his energy. And I was thinking about all the things we've been talking about and all the things that we had in common and all the coincidences. And it was going round and round and round and round in my brain that I think I ended up having about 2 hours sleep. And I was absolutely shattered in the morning. Now, I was meeting a group of people that I didn't know. I was going on a trip that I was a bit, like I said, anxious and excited about. And I really could have done with feeling a bit more fresh, but no. So I had a 9-hour flight and I thought, well, I'll sleep on the flight. I'll watch a film, I'll, you know, relax, and then I'll catch up on the flight. Did I sleep on the flight? No, not one wink. My brain was replaying that conversation over and over and over. And I was thinking, is it a sign? Am I going to hear from him again? I wonder if he feels as tired as me. I wonder if he's got to Rome already. And it was just going round and round. And it sort of took over my brain. And I thought, Kathy, this is ridiculous. You are about to go on a holiday of a lifetime, something you've wanted to do for so many years. Get yourself straight. But in the back of my mind, I was still wondering, like, am I going to hear from him again? Am I not? So anyway, we land, my phone connects to the signal again, and suddenly, ping, 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 it's him texting me. And I felt this rush of energy again. And I was like, yes, he's interested. And the conversation just basically carried on where it had left off. Now, this went on for days. I would keep telling myself to be present, to enjoy every moment, to engage with the people that I'm with and really make the most of this trip, because when was I going to come on a trip like this again? And I'd waited for so long to do it. Yet at the same time, I was distracted, wondering if I'd hear from him again. And every time I did, I felt this rush of energy and this elation, and I felt so lit up. But then every time a bit of time passed and I didn't hear, I'd feel really low and really anxious and question what it meant. And it was like, I felt like the universe was fucking with me. So one morning I remembered that it was his birthday and I hadn't heard in a little while. And I was wondering, you know, how's he getting on? What's he up to? And I thought, should I text? Shouldn't I? And I thought, sod it, it's his birthday. Of course I'm gonna just say happy birthday. So I sent him a voice note. And I said, I hope you're having an amazing day. This is what I'm up to. And he'd asked for some videos and stuff. So I sent him some of like the animals that I'd seen. And he messaged back straight away and he was like, wow, good memory, thank you. And then he went on to say that when he was at the Colosseum, he'd had a moment where everything that he'd suppressed over the last 5 years all came bubbling to the surface and it overwhelmed him and he broke down. Even to the point that an old lady came up and said, are you okay? And when he told me this, again, I could feel that my automatic reaction was to hold space, was to support, was to think about what he needs more than what I needed and why I was on my trip. And I basically said to him, you've obviously held a lot in for a long time and you needed time away for it to actually come up to the surface. And hopefully now you can start to take steps which mean that you're choosing you. And he opened up even more and was sharing things that were vulnerable that you just wouldn't share with someone you didn't know very well. So he obviously felt that he could trust me, but also it made me think about my patterns and what was going on here. And it dawned on me that, hang on a second, I've actually attracted someone who feels broken, who feels like they need saving. Again, this was the story of my life for years. And it made me wonder, with all the work that I've done on setting boundaries and overcoming people-pleasing behaviours, how am I back in this position again so quickly? I mean, essentially, he was a stranger, but that people-pleaser instinct in me crept in before I even realised it. At this point, I had a word with myself and I said, Kathy, you have come away to process your own stuff, to get some space to reflect and get some clarity. And what are you doing? Holding space for someone else and not concentrating on what's going on with you. And you're focusing on the other person to the point that you can't think of anything else. You're not present with these people. But the thing is, it seemed like every time I told myself to focus on why I was there and I kind of came back to myself, came back to my own energy, that was the exact moment that I would hear from him again. And as soon as I got the text, I felt pulled into his world instantly. And this happened for like a few days, back and forth, back and forth. Now, don't get me wrong, I had an amazing holiday. It went by in a flash, but it was amazing. The thing is, I came back emotionally drained from all the highs and the lows. From him, but also from my own stuff too. Now, it wasn't until I got back home and the texting died down and I was back to reality that I really asked myself, what was the real lesson here? Because there were so many coincidences. Surely it meant something. And why do some people completely throw us off our path, even when we know better? There's a few reasons why magnetic people enter our lives. Firstly, it's the mirror effect. People are mirrors and they are reflecting back to you something you need to see about yourself. So your fears, your desires, where you still need to grow. They reflect parts of you that want attention. So they highlight unmet needs or feelings of low self-worth. And they reflect parts of you that you're still integrating. So maybe you've got a deep longing for connection or the need to feel like you belong. The second thing is energetic resonance. So when we are healing and we are doing the inner work, we are changing our frequency in real time. Now, with energy, like attracts like. So your frequency is attracting like experiences in, your external environment. So you're going to attract people that are on the same frequency as you. It's like an energetic ping from the universe. And encounters like this feel electric because your energy recognizes theirs. And the third thing is maybe it's a soul contract. Now, I don't want to get all woo-woo, but I am a true believer that we agree certain contracts before we come to this earth. And some people are there who enter your life, they give you a wake-up call, and then they move on. They're not there to stay. It's a catalyst for growth to get you back on your path. And even brief encounters can trigger growth that you wouldn't get any other way. These people are revealing your next layer of inner work because healing and growth comes in layers. Okay, so why, like in my case, does a magnetic encounter make you lose yourself? Well, even when you've done healing work, certain dynamics can trigger old patterns in you. And for me, it was the people pleaser instinct. This is where you feel automatically responsible for other people's feelings and emotions. You lean in and give them emotional support before trust is earned. And you overshare or you overgive your time and energy. So you're putting that person's needs before your own. So that overwhelming sense of connection that you feel with the other person is actually a subconscious response to past relationship patterns or trauma. And this creates a dynamic where you lose sight of yourself in the presence of this intense energy. Now, something else that I think has a part to play here, especially in my example, is something called limerence. Now, this is where you have an infatuation with someone else to the point that you think about them obsessively. You're hyper-focused on this person and you are preoccupied with, do they feel the same about me? Are these feelings reciprocated? The thoughts are persistent, they're involuntary, and they're intrusive. So even when you're trying to focus on other things, you can't get this person out of your head. You have extreme highs when they show interest or you hear back from them, and extreme lows or anxiety when either they don't reciprocate or they feel distant. So basically you have an emotional dependence on reciprocation. Limerence is commonly a cause from childhood trauma. So basically, if you grew up with caregivers that didn't show you love, you felt unloved or unimportant, we spend our adulthood trying to search for someone to fill that void. It actually feels safer to love from afar. And it means that when we're focused on this person, we don't have to focus on our own struggles in the present moment. So it's like this maladaptive daydreaming. Signs that you are losing yourself because of a magnetic connection are racing thoughts, obsessive thoughts, checking your phone, not focusing on your own plans, being detached from the situation where you are. Now, even though I teach boundaries and overcoming people-pleasing behaviours, doesn't mean I never get triggered. My old instinct to support kicked in pretty much immediately, even though this person was basically a stranger. I gave more energy than actually felt safe or balanced, and this ended up completely knocking me out of alignment, out of kilter. And the reason this happens is if we go through childhood trauma, our nervous system is wired for intensity. So when we find it, we mistake it for safety or destiny because that's what got wired into our system as a child. It's what feels familiar. Now, the challenge is staying grounded when you feel that spark with someone, when you feel that overwhelming energetic connection. Some grounding techniques that you can do when you find that you are losing yourself in this connection is 1, becoming aware. Awareness is the key to everything. Now, I say this over and over again, but it doesn't mean that I am above it. I'm becoming quicker and quicker at catching myself in the moment and naming the sensations that I feel. So is it excitement? Is it anxiety? Is it curiosity? Or do you feel that urge to fix? Pause, breathe, and name what is coming up for you. Secondly, do something which is going to bring you back to your body, bring your energy back to you. So this might be breath work, journaling, meditation, going for a walk, something where you can just connect with yourself and tune in. And remember your power, because a magnetic connection with someone is more about the journey that you are on and a catalyst for your growth rather than about them. Now, I nearly didn't go for that drink. I could have not gone a day early, I could have not gone to the bar, but I did. And I certainly didn't need to meet someone who needed saving, but that's exactly what I attracted, because that was the universe's way of waking me up to old patterns that still need work. And I'm so glad it did, because if I didn't have that encounter, it wouldn't have fueled me to focus on my healing, my self-awareness, bring back into the forefront what I want in life and what I don't. If I didn't have this magnetic connection, then I wouldn't have had this wake-up call. Since I've been back, I have taken aligned action, getting back on track with where I'm headed in life, what I'm focusing on, the patterns that I'm healing, and how I am growing as a person. And literally, the synchronicities have been off the charts, which shows that your inner state draws towards you experiences that match your frequency. The real question isn't, will I see him again? But what did this encounter show me about me? Now, yes, we have text occasionally, and I still get that rush of energy when I see his name pop up on my phone. But now I can respond from a place where I don't lose myself entirely, and where I can focus on my own path, but still have an engaging conversation about the things that we enjoy, what we have in common, the books that we're reading, the trips that we're planning. It's never too late to build healthy relationships and heal attachment wounds, and it doesn't mean that you have to cut everyone off. Now, I would love to know, have you ever met someone that completely threw you off your path, who maybe triggered old patterns that you just weren't expecting? Let me know in the comments, what did it teach you about you? What I've learned about magnetic connections is that they're not always about romance, but they are about reflection, resonance, and revelation. The universe sends us teachers in disguise to shake us up and make us recognize what we still need to work on. Healing isn't about never being triggered. It's about noticing faster and choosing differently, because true growth is measured by how quickly you come back to yourself. If you enjoyed this video, then please hit the like button. And if you found it useful, you might want to watch this one next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I can't wait to see you in the next one.